name is Amy Rose.
And I'm Tails.
Cyberpunk Jordan is supported via Patreon. Supporting it helps the channel and nets you some sweet rewards.
You sound like every basic YouTuber out there.
That's it! Get over here, you two-tailed brat! You ruined a perfectly good intro!
You've got mail.
Hello, my gummy bears. My name is Jordan, also known as CJ, and welcome back to Jordan's Soapbox, the show where I talk about anything that I want to talk about. Sonic the Hedgehog has likely one of the most creative communities on the internet, with plenty of fan art, fan fiction, and fan comics about the Blue Blur. The latter is especially popular for fan continuations of comic books under Archie Comics, which ran from 1992 until being suddenly cancelled in 2017. Some of these are continuations of the pre-Super Genesis wave continuity, the canon of the series until it too was suddenly removed due to a, certain someone's lawsuit. One of these is Archie Sonic Forever, created by June Shores, Scarlet, and others. Unlike other fan continuations, ASF would start its point of divergence earlier from the main series at 241, creating a unique opportunity to stand out from other fan continuations. But it would only last 3 issues before it too would be cancelled. Man, Sonic just can't catch a break with these things. So, what happened? This is the tale of Archie Sonic Forever and how it crashed and burned. We open with Sonic, Tails, and Amy arriving in the Kingdom of Mercia, a location in the Archie Sonic universe having a Robin Hood-esque vibe to it. It's one of the many weirder things I loved about Archie Sonic, and starting the story here makes ASF stand out immediately. The heroes recount some of the events that occurred before this story, which is slightly redundant to us as the reader because the text prologue does that, but the characters don't have that knowledge. Minor complaint. Meanwhile, Dr. Eggman is working on an unknown project with a ring, as Leenda chastises him for using a rare resource. Realizing what everyone knows, that Dr. Eggman has absolutely lost it. I mean, this is the dude that put his face on a Death Star. You'd think you would have figured out that sooner. She desperately contacts Dimitri with the latest access codes for the Dark Legion. Knuckles is not happy about where it's coming from, which, I mean, I would be because, you know, Leanda's really hot. I probably deserve that. Since Leenda would absolutely betray you for a mere penny, Dimitri hints he has taken necessary precautions. It then moves to Rotor in deep thought, which is interrupted by the adorable arrival of Cream the Rabbit. While Cream wants to look for the owner of the mysterious Tails doll that's been causing all sorts of issues for New Mobotropolis, Rotor dismisses her due to the sheer number of other events that are occurring. Mina Mongoose, who is naked, my eyes, my beautiful eyes! Look, I know prior to Sega having more clear house rules regarding female characters, some such as Sally Acorn wore little to no clothing at all, without any actual nudity of course. But Mina Mongoose has always been depicted with clothing in every appearance for Archie Sonic, so it's weird she's naked here. On a completely unrelated note, the artwork of ASF is absolutely solid, but sometimes there are weird errors or choices, such as this panel having a different style for the main characters, background characters. It doesn't happen often, but it is noticeable when it does. Nudity aside, Mina asks Ash Mongoose if they can squeeze in another show, as she feels guilty for the harm her previous songs caused New Mobotropolis. One thing I love about ASF is how it humanizes Ash. Ever since his introduction in Sonic 134, he's been a one-note character with very little personality. This changes by actually having physical displays of his role as Mina's manager, his love towards her, and even a personality outside of his grumpiness. I still don't like him though. Jeffrey St. John watches this affectionate display with disgust. Except, that's not actually Jeffrey St. John. It's Ixisnagus possessing Jeffrey St. John, who is also possessed by the original spirits that made him up in the first place. Needless to say, it's a crowded headspace and he is not happy about all the voices in his head. exists screaming at them to shut up. Back in Mercia, Tails relays the plan to save Sally via burning through her insulation via rings. Admittedly, how each fan comic is going to handle Sally's de-robotization will be different, so this is totally fine. I really don't have any complaints about the explanation. They could have used a de-roboticizer, they could have used the Crude's plan, or whatever that is. Yeah, it works. Just works. Rob and Amy meanwhile discuss their father, who I actually had to look up because I forgot they existed in the Archie continuity. Guess I'm a fake fan then. Cream the Rabbit closes our story by finding the Tails doll who was in yet another mysterious situation, resulting in damage to the city. Internally debating whether she should tell Rotor or not, she concludes it would be pretty silly, walking off. If the Sonic shorts taught me anything, that doll is pure evil and Cream just made a grave mistake. Similar to the actual series, we actually have a side story called Reliable. It opens with Uncle Chuck working on Nicole's new handheld form, with Nicole attempting to be useful. It leads into a conversation about her wanting a permanent body, which honestly is actually an understandable evolution for Nicole. Ever since Sonic 151's side story Stargazing, there's always been an undercurrent of Nicole wanting to be a real Mobian. It's a smart choice to go all the way with her wanting a nanomachine body. Chuck embraces Nicole, encouraging and allowing her to help him. It's a short story, but it's pretty dang sweet. Sonic and Tails and the Mercian Freedom Fighters are in the sewers, with old battening parts floating down the water such as a SWAT bot. Rob warns there is a troll in the sewers, with Alan singing a not so comforting song about it, scaring Tails. So basically any average bard in Dungeons & Dragons. Yeah, fun Jordan fact, I used to be a dungeon master for Dungeons & Dragons, and I think it's a scientific fact at this point that bards are the most annoying. Go duke it out in the comments. They fail their dexterity check, however, as Silver intercepts them. Meanwhile, Cream the Rabbit is attempting to keep an eye on the Tails doll, but being called down for dinner causes her to lose track of it. She excuses herself as Vanilla, in likely one of the funniest panels of the comic, sips her tea and remarks that she's fine with quantum mechanics, but draws the line at caffeine. Honestly, I wouldn't blame her. Cream the Rabbit having caffeine is a nightmare waiting to happen. Mina Mongoose is preparing for her concert in an outfit that's so dang cute. Why couldn't we have started with this one? Rotor is attending the concert, with Cream interrupting him. After a pep talk, Rotor and Cream formulate a plan to capture the Tails doll. It then cuts back to Mina introducing Sonic's father, Jules, who had to remain a Robian due to his injuries in the Great War. Ash has flashbacks to being a Robian as Jules talks about the difficulty of adjusting to his new life after being given free will, something that's introduced in this comic. It continues the previous issue by making smart decisions with Ash by fleshing him out, making him more sympathetic to the reader. But again, I still don't like him. We return to Mercia as the heroes agree to have Silver's help. However, the troll is rumbling, so the heroes decide to head towards the surface and begin their attack. Eggman is not happy about this turn of events, screaming that he wants them all dead. I know for my younger audience you may be very confused about how Eggman acts this way, but trust me, this is pretty in line with the Archie continuity. Not exactly out of character considering all the terrible things he has wanted to do and done, including literally making Charmy the Bee go insane. Leander receives Dimitri's response, saying his trust in her will be his downfall. Sonic leads Mecha Sally away as the others fight the other Eggman forces led by Lord Mordred Hood. He unleashes his troll, which turns out to be Amy's father. The weirdest thing about this is none of the characters have an initial reaction to this or say anything about it until the next issue. Even then, I think it's all done very clumsily, and some additional dialogue would be nice, clarifying, hey, this is Amy's father, except some sort of mind control? Yeah, it's really not explained well. Mecha Sally blasts Sonic into the Death Egg, with Sonic venting to lose her. No, I will not be making the obvious joke, it is 2026. Sonic finds Nicole's old handheld form, with Sally X Nicole written on it. That, wasn't on the handheld at the end of Sonic 222. Okay, look, on one hand, there is a certain amount of suspension of disbelief, such as the conversation between Sally and Nicole featured here that didn't happen in Sonic 222, But the Sally X Nicole writing on the handheld doesn't make sense because of this panel, so the suspension of disbelief is shattered by the inherent contradiction. I'm pretty sure this is an omen. Anyway, the bits of conversation is enough for Sonic to formulate a plan. Another side story for Archie Sonic Forever is Network Not Found, starting with Bunny Rabbit sliding down the sand in the Oil Ocean Zone. The story continues an unresolved storyline in Archie Sonic where Bunny Rabbit left the Freedom Fighters after losing her cybernetics due to an accident by Ixis Nagus, and Antoine left in a coma after an attack by Metal Sonic. Bunny's uncle Beauregard Rabbit is alive and working with the Dark Egg Legion, albeit more out of pragmatic necessity. On her way, she encounters Matilda, Mighty's sister, long presumed dead, nearly meeting her end from an egg pond. Yeah, I know, there's a lot of information here. After saving her, Matilda reveals she has instructions for someone matching her description. Bunny reunites with her uncle and fills him in on everything that has happened, with her uncle suggesting helping individuals in the Dark Egg Legion due to Bunny's opposition to directly helping Eggman, which I mean, makes sense. Bunny repairs Matilda's arm and does odd jobs, having her with a really cute purple outfit towards the end. The story ends with Beauregard Rabbit asking Bunny to be his commissar. Contrary to the end of this promising story will not be continued. Issue 2 opens with Sonic crashing into Tails aboard the Death Egg, before cutting to the battle occurring on street level. Silver chases Mordred, who feebly tries to use hypnosis on him, before Silver just casually throws him aside like a Gary's Mod ragdoll. Sonic and Tails leads Mecha Sally to the Ring Matrix room, with Eggman feebly attempting to stop them, with a hilarious scene of X-Swats attempting to use a light bridge. Not exactly the smartest bots there. With Leanda's shutting off communications, Eggman unleashes a remote detonation on Mecha Sally, the Mercian Legion, and Leanda's Legion. Leanda realizes too late the master control setting Dimitri gave her never gave her control, with Leanda exploding from the bomb. Unlike the last time this happened, there is no Dr. Eggman to save you this time. Tails, meanwhile, finally cracks the security, with the Ring Matrix pulling Sally in. Mina and Nicole perform a concert in New Mobotropolis as Sally transforms back to her organic self, the juxtaposition being really beautiful here in no small part due to the artwork. The trio escape the exploding Death Egg as Eggman leaves Orbot and Cubot to their fates with no backups to save either of them. Ouch! All seems right with the world. Except no. In the aftermath, Sally is reading over her actions as Mecha Sally, and goes outside with Sonic following her. Sally remarks how they were moving really fast. No, they weren't. The entire point of that whole Sally X Monkey Con thing in the Iron Dominion arc was she wanted to be in a relationship with Sonic. There was never any indications of them moving too fast. Sally continues she just wants to be friends with Sonic, and Sonic accepts that. Oh good gosh, okay. I'm gonna be really honest here. Shipping in the Sonic community is probably one of the most toxic of any fandom I've ever encountered. It was especially prevalent, as I've mentioned a couple times on this show before, with Archie Sonic, mainly with ships like Son Amy, Son Ally, and Sal Nicole. The writers very clearly want the Sal Nicole ship. From the entire storyline with Nicole wanting to be real, the writing that was on Nicole's portable computer, and this scene. But Sonic and Sally were together, and they took their time to get that way. I wouldn't have minded this so much if this was set in the post-Super Genesis Wave continuity, as Sonic and Sally don't have the same history there. But they do here, and especially because this whole comic is being billed as a fan continuation of Archie Sonic, it is so much worse and makes no sense. It kind of insults people who enjoyed this ship and look forward to, you know, maybe some semblance of normalcy with Sally no longer being roboticized. It just sucks so much and genuinely is one of the most boneheaded decisions with this comic. Amy decides to stay behind in Mercia to spend time with her father, while Sonic, Tails, and Sally depart, and thus it ends with the tornado flying off. And that's it. No, I'm serious. That's it. Archie Sonic Forever will be cancelled after its second issue, with no official updates from the team confirming its cancellation outside of their Discord server. And it is incredibly frustrating because outside of issues like the treatment of Son Alley, Archie Sonic Forever is probably one of the better fan continuations of Archie Sonic. It is a really unique point of divergence from the normal series that makes it stand out compared to other fan continuations. It makes really smart decisions with its characters, mostly. And the side stories were really fun. At the end of the day, when I look at the entire work, I do see a fantastic fan continuation despite its flaws. So how the heck did things crash and burn so spectacularly? Well, we need to talk about something with fan comics. It is utterly difficult. It often is unpaid work due to the legal concerns since it's based on a copyrighted work, and even if folks are being paid, it won't be enough to be a main source of income for them. Besides that, there's also the issue of workload. Comics are complicated, and you need a team large enough to complete it. Archie Sonic Forever had a tiny staff of folks working on it outside of June and Scarlet, which I believe is one of the biggest unspoken reasons why the comic was quietly canceled. It simply didn't have enough folks to properly manage a comic demanding this much work. This small size might have to do with June's experiences working on Archie Sonic Online, a similar fan continuation. She spoke about these experiences in a since-deleted thread on the Discord server, where she allegedly complained about how there were too many cooks in the kitchen, and other miscellaneous criticisms such as how they handled Sally's de-robotization. But because ASO had such a large team working on it, there have been 7 issues of the main book, 6 issues of Sonic Universe, and a Knuckles Endangered Species comic. It doesn't mean you can't do a fan comic yourself, but the chances of you being overwhelmed and then burnt out are much higher. Infighting also seemed to be an unspoken issue with ASF. In February 2024, the Archie Sonic Forever Tumblr account answered a question regarding the absence of an interview with Tania Del Rio, known for doing the artwork with Stargazing that was the first appearance of Nicole in her Lynx form. Quote, "We haven't. The person who conducted the interview left the project. There was a lot of bad stuff going on with them, and as they left, they revoked our permission to use most of their material. Not ideal for a new webcomic, but we're moving past it." This individual is CMYK Avenger, who worked on Archie Sonic Forever's 0 and 1 issues. When another Sonic the Hedgehog fan comic, Blue Streak, one that CMYK was involved in, Scarlet had this to say about his time on ASF. While ASF was in pre-production, he was part of the team and regularly worked to override June on her own comic, bullied her, and then blamed her for issues his own bullying caused, such as crunch and stress within the team that wouldn't have even occurred otherwise based on unnecessary hard deadlines he was insisting upon, and repeatedly tried to make a comic a fundamentally different thing than June was trying to make, and bullied her for not meeting his expectations. He left our team in bad blood days before our first release, when it was clear she wasn't going to make the kind of comic he wanted her to make. Withdrew tons of material the week of release that we didn't even actually necessarily want to publish in the first place, and then withdrew more on the day of release, and then publicly criticized us for not releasing any of his material, that he had privately withdrawn our permission to publish. He then haunted us for weeks after that with lies about our project, and released private illustrated pages, story details, and future plans he claimed credit for, but didn't actually make, and criticized the project for not meeting his vision when it never was supposed to, all while he'd seemingly done everything he could to sabotage it and clip its wings. I did attempt to reach out to CMYK via email to get his side of the story, but he declined to be interviewed or provide any information about his time on ASF, stating he is, quote, "focused on other comics work, so I won't be able to talk about my time on ASF. But there's other information that can be found through secondary sources, such as his Discord server, where he actually addresses his time on Archie Sonic Forever. He claims to have been, quote, "a de facto editor, art director, recruiter, point of contact, managed social media, and helped develop the outline for the first 12 issues? Yeah, ASF only went up to 3, so there's definitely a little bit of a discrepancy here. What's interesting is that while he is credited for writing the story Network Not Found in issue number 1, he claims the story was rewritten without his permission. CMYK further claims he left the comic before the release of that issue due to, quote, creative differences. What those creative differences are is unknown, but he does address the Sun Alley debacle in the follow-up question, stating he, quote, left the comic before that decision was made, so I have as much information as you do. What I have been told by those who knew him was that he was deeply upset about his experiences on the comic, which would help to explain why he doesn't want to talk about it. The only certainty I can glean from all this is there was allegedly serious issues between CMYK and the rest of the ASF team. So we have a team too small to complete it, alleged infighting. What else could there be? How about June and Scarlet being terrible people? Hey, just a little bit of a heads up, this section is going to talk about some seriously mature subject matter, and while I've done my best to keep within YouTube's advertising guidelines, viewer discretion is still going to be advised. When it was announced that Archie Sonic Forever was cancelled, only in their Discord server, the following was stated. ASF been inactive for a good while, mainly because I've had just the worst time finding the inspiration to write it again. The stories that I've been coming up with are ones that I'd love to draw or read, but which I have no interest in actually writing. This has put me, Scarlet, and Ava Arctic in a big old loop of planning, replanning, and re-replanning. It also just hasn't been fun in a long time. Scarlet and I decided it's best that we work on original projects instead. So, what original projects did they want to work on? Well, one of them is a Mega Man fan comic titled Nothing is Broken. The fan comic is supposed to be an allegory for queer issues by having rock and roll, who are minors, mind you, I don't care if they're robots, they look like children, in an incestuous relationship. They are canonically siblings. Seriously, I'm absolutely playing the I have transgender friends card here, because after speaking to them about the existence of this comic to get their perspective, they were aghast in horror. No amount of justifications from either June or Scarlet would ever make this okay, especially in a time where folks who identify as transgender face unacceptable amounts of violence, harassment, and death. I would not be surprised if bigots use Nothing is Broken to promote their own transphobia, so for giving them that ammo. And before anyone counters, well, this could look critically at it, June has made art shipping these two with no critical context whatsoever on her Blue Sky. Yet somehow, that's not even the worst thing these two did. You might remember in my Beefish Productions A Commissioned Nightmare video, I mentioned being doxxed and that negatively impacting my mental health. Well, this is a story about how all of that happened. The Discord server for Archie Sonic Forever had been rebranded into Head Pigeons after its cancellation and aforementioned focus on those original projects. Due to differences in opinions and frankly unclear rules on the server, I was kicked and its main members blocked me. I talked about that in a video discussing anti-Semitism within the Sonic community, since that was related to the topic at hand. After that video was released, someone decided to dox me. There's not too much information that survives about this individual, other than at the time they were a minor, seemed to not care about legal consequences, and seemed to know about head pigeons either through that video or some other relationship. This individual sent the doxed information to June, Scarlet, and maybe others. They knew about it and didn't tell me about it. An announcement was made about this, albeit I was not named, and my friends still in the server expressed concern about it. I decided to use lines of communication with June and Scarlet still available to me, mainly due to how serious the circumstances were, to ask if the doxed individual was me, and if there was any information they could provide to me should I need to file a police report. They decided to block me and not even respond. I thankfully stumbled upon the individual on Twitter, and the information was thankfully nowhere near where I actually lived. But that is still dangerous, as someone who is not even me could be in harm's way. With the help of my amazing community, he was banned from Twitter. I commented about the entire state of affairs and called both June and Scarlet out for being absolutely crappy people with all of this. Their response was one of their moderators going on an unhinged rant about Zionism. That's not the subject matter at hand, buddy. There is a little bit of an ironic ending to all of this. I will mention that since then, Blue Sky has labeled their account as rude, meaning they won't have the reach on the site as they once did. Deserved. Archie Sonic Forever is one of the weirdest things I've ever had to review for Jordan's Soapbox. Because the work itself, outside of questionable choices and minor art issues, is overall solid. But unfortunately it was cancelled before it could really take off, and several issues both in and outside of the comic doomed it. It doesn't help they're working on something absolutely reprehensible replacing it, nor how they went about handling myself being doxxed. I think it proves that sometimes the best fictional works are just sometimes created by truly awful people. Thankfully, there are really good other fan comics out there that don't have that baggage. Archie Sonic Online, Sonic Blue Streak, and Sonic Legacy are a handful of fan comics that are worthy of your attention. And who knows, maybe I'll cover them on this show one day. ASF, though, is just a sad footnote in Sonic fan comic history. It really shouldn't have been. That's all for this episode of Jordan's Soapbox. Join us next time as we talk about The Lost Homeland. Yes, it's happening.